The slap cracked across that bar like a rifle shot. Staff Sergeant Ryan Keller stood over her with his chest heaving and his hand still open, and then he laughed. "Look at me when I'm talking to you," he said. "You think you're better than everybody in this room." 40 people watched a woman's head snap sideways from the force of it. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. And Claire Morgan, who had spent 6 years teaching herself how to be nobody at all, slowly lifted her eyes to his, and Ryan Keller felt something cold crawl up the back of his neck. If you enjoy stories like this one, please subscribe to the channel and stay with me all the way to the end. And comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has traveled. 2 hours before Ryan Keller put his hand on her face, Claire Morgan pushed open the door of the Iron Lantern and stood there for exactly 3 seconds without moving. She did it the way other people check their phone. Nobody noticed. Nobody ever noticed. 3 seconds was long enough to count 16 bodies marked 2 exits register, that the bathroom hallway ran deep and had no window, and confirm that the man behind the bar kept something under the register that he touched with his knee when the door opened. 3 seconds, and then she let her shoulders drop half an inch, softened her mouth, and became what she had trained herself to be for 6 years running, a tired woman. Nobody's problem. She took the corner booth, back to the wall. She always took the corner booth, and if the corner booth was full, she waited outside until it wasn't, and in 6 years, she had never once explained that to anyone, because there was no one left to explain it to. The bartender came over with a rag over his shoulder. His name was Hollis, 61 years old, and he had been pouring drinks in this room since before half the men in it could shave. "What'll it be?" "Water." Hollis waited. People said water, and then they said something else. She didn't. "Just water," he said. "Just water." "You want lemon in that?" "No, thank you." He stood there another second because in 30 years of tending bar, he had built an instinct, and the instinct was pinging at him quietly the way a smoke alarm pings when the battery's dying and you can't figure out which room it's coming from. She was polite. She was calm. She was sitting in the one seat in the building where nothing could come at her from behind. "You waiting on somebody?" he asked. "No, "You from around here?" "No." Hollis nodded slowly. "You're not much for talking." "No," Claire said, and she smiled, and the smile was so small and so gentle and so completely empty that Hollis walked back to the bar and forgot her inside of 30 seconds, which was precisely what the smile had been engineered to accomplish. At the far end of the room, at the long table by the pool tables, Staff Sergeant Ryan Keller was already 4 beers into the best night of his month. "And I told him," Ryan was saying, "I told the lieutenant, sir, with all due respect, if you want to run that lane yourself, be my guest. But when you eat dirt at the second barricade, don't come looking for me to pull you out." The table roared. 6 Marines, all of them younger than him, except one, all of them laughing on cue because Ryan Keller was the kind of man who could make a room laugh, whether the room found him funny or not. He had that gift. He'd had it since he was 14. Say it loud enough and long enough and confident enough, and people would decide on their own that it must be worth listening to. "You didn't say that," said Corporal Debenash. "I said that." "You did not say that to Lieutenant Barrow. Ask Ramirez. Ramirez will say anything you tell him to say." "Ramirez," Ryan said, turning. "Did I say that?" "He said it?" Ramirez said, not looking up. "See, Ramirez," Devin said, "you'd tell me the sky was orange if this man asked you to." "The sky's orange," Ramirez said, and the table went up again. Ryan sat back with his arms across the top of the booth like a man who owned the deed to the building. 11 years in the Corps, 2 deployments, a chest full of things that meant something and a couple that didn't, and a reputation in his battalion as the loudest, hardest, most reliably impressive man in any room he chose to walk into. He was 32 years old, and he had never once in his adult life been in a room where he wasn't sure of his own standing. That was the thing about Ryan Keller that nobody in that bar understood yet, including Ryan Keller. He didn't need to be loved. He needed to be measured. He needed to walk into a space and feel the room adjust around him, feel the little recalibration people make when somebody big enters, and as long as he felt that adjustment, he was fine. He was generous. He was funny. He bought rounds. He'd carried a man 3 miles once with a shattered ankle and never told a soul who wasn't there. But if the room didn't adjust, if the room just went on existing exactly as it had before he walked in, something happened behind his eyes that he had no name for and no tools to handle. He got up to get another round, and on the way back he saw her. Corner booth. Alone. Glass of water sweating on a napkin. Not on her phone, not reading. Just sitting there with her hands loose on the table, looking at nothing in particular, as calm as a woman waiting for a bus. Ryan noticed her for the same reason a dog notices a closed door. He sat back down. 2 minutes later, he looked again. Who's that? Devin glanced over. Who's who? Corner, booth. I don't know, some lady. She'd been there long. Man, why do you care? I don't care, Ryan said and looked again. Marcus Reed had been watching her for 11 minutes by then. He was sitting at the bar with a beer he hadn't touched in 20 minutes. 63 years old. Navy retired, a man who came to the Iron Lantern 3 nights a week because the alternative was a house with nobody in it. He was not the kind of man anybody looked at twice. That was the point of him. He had spent a career being not looked at, and he was watching the woman in the corner with a low, steady, spreading unease that he couldn't shake off. Hollis came by. You want another? Not yet. You've been nursing that one like it owes you money. Hollis. Yeah. That woman in the corner. Hollis wiped the bar. Water, no lemon. Didn't want to talk. How long has she been in? 20 minutes, half hour. Marcus nodded slowly. She hasn't looked at the door once. So, nobody sits alone in a bar for half an hour without looking at the door. Everybody looks at the door. You look at the door when it opens, you can't help it. It's a reflex. You hear the hinge and your eyes go. Marcus turned his beer a quarter turn on the wood. She doesn't look at the door. Maybe she's not curious. Hollis, she doesn't look at the door because she already knows what's coming through it. Hollis stopped wiping. She heard it open 8 times, Marcus said. 8 times. Every single time, her chin came up maybe a half inch, and her eyes went to the mirror behind you. Not the door, the mirror. She's watching the door in the reflection, so nobody sees her watching the door. Marcus. I know what that is, Marcus said. Hollis looked down the bar at the corner booth at the small, tired, unremarkable woman with the glass of water. And for the first time all night, the smoke alarm in the back of his head stopped pinging and started screaming. What is it? He asked quietly. Marcus didn't answer because Ryan Keller had just stood up. Where are you going? Devin said. Get a drink. You got a drink. Getting another one. Ryan didn't go to the bar. He walked beer in hand, easy and loose, 12 feet across a floor he'd walked 100 times and stopped at the end of the corner booth. Evening, he said. Claire didn't look up. Evening. You're by yourself. I am. That's a shame. It isn't. Ryan smiled. He had a good smile. It had worked on a lot of people. You want company? No, thank you. You didn't even think about it. I didn't need to. The smile stayed exactly where it was, which was the first small tell. Because a smile that stays exactly where it is has stopped being a smile and started being a piece of equipment. You always this friendly, Ryan said. I'm being friendly. That's friendly. I said, thank you. Behind him at the long table, Devin Ash put his beer down and didn't pick it back up. Let me buy you a real drink, Ryan said. I have a drink. That's water. It is. Who comes to a bar and drinks water? Somebody who's thirsty, Claire said. Somebody at the pool table laughed. Just one person. Just once. And it wasn't a big laugh and it wasn't a mean laugh, but Ryan Keller heard it land on him instead of with him, and something in his shoulders changed. Funny, he said. I wasn't being funny. No, that was funny. That was good. He set his beer on her table. Uninvited, a small thing, a nothing thing, and Claire's eyes went to it for exactly a quarter second and then came back up. See, I'm just trying to be hospitable. This is a veterans bar, you know, that everybody in here served, or their people did. It's kind of a family thing. That's nice. So when somebody new comes in and sits in the corner and doesn't talk to anybody, folks wonder. Do they? They do. Then they can ask, Claire said. You did. Marcus Reed, 40 feet away, closed his eyes for a moment because he had just watched her hands. When Ryan set his beer on her table, her right hand had moved. Not Bashon, Maj. 2 inches, it had come off the tabletop and gone down and settled on her thigh, and her left hand had stayed exactly where it was, flat, invisible, and unthreatening. And Marcus had seen that exact configuration of hands maybe 4 times in his entire life. And every single time it had belonged to somebody who was at that moment deciding whether or not to end a human being. Hollis, he said, yeah. Cut him off. He's not drunk. Cut him off anyway. Marcus, that's Keller. I can't just... Hollis, listen to me very carefully, Marcus said. In about 4 minutes, that boy is going to do something he can't take back, and I need you to make sure he doesn't get the chance. At the booth, Ryan sat down. He didn't ask. He just slid into the seat across from her like the whole thing had been arranged in advance, and he spread his arms across the back of the bench, and he looked at her with a patient, amused, absolutely certain expression of a man who has never once in his life been genuinely refused. I'm Ryan, he said. She looked at him then, really looked. First time. And for about 1 full second, Ryan Keller felt something he had no filing system for. Her eyes were not angry. That was the part that scrambled him. He knew angry. He'd been handling angry since he was a kid. Angry was easy. Angry was a thing you could win. He knew scared too, and scared was even easier. But this woman was looking at him the way a man looks at a piece of ground he's about to cross, flat, careful, complete, taking inventory. And there was no fear in it at all, and no interest in it either. And Ryan felt for 1 second exactly the size he actually was. He hated it so fast it made his ears hot. You got a name, he said. Claire. Claire. He nodded. Claire what? Just Claire. Just Claire. He laughed. Oh, okay. Mysterious. That's fine. What do you do? Just Claire. Nothing interesting. See, that's not an answer. It's the one I have. You a nurse? No. You look like a nurse. I'm not. Teacher? No. Insurance? No. Then what? Nothing interesting, Claire said again in exactly the same tone, at exactly the same volume, and something about the repetition, the perfect, unbothered machine, smooth repetition of it made the back of Ryan's neck prickle. You know what I think, he said. No. I think you're one of those people who thinks they're too good for a place like this. I don't think that. You sure act like it. I'm drinking water in a corner, Claire said. I haven't spoken to anyone. I haven't looked at anyone. I'm not sure how that's acting like anything. That's exactly the problem. Then the problem isn't me. The table went quiet. Ryan's jaw shifted. You should go back to your friends, Claire said. And she said it kindly. That was the thing. She said it the way you'd tell somebody their headlights were on. There wasn't a drop of malice in it anywhere, no challenge, no heat. And that was worse than a slap in the face, because a slap in the face would have meant she was engaged. Would have meant she was in the fight, would have meant she was afraid enough to swing. Instead, she had just told him gently that he was dismissed. Nobody had ever dismissed Ryan Keller. You should go back to your friends, he repeated. Yes. Like I'm a kid. I didn't say that. That's how you said it. That's how you heard it. Devin Ash was on his feet. Ryan, he called. Hey, Ryan, come here a second. Ryan didn't move. Ryan, I'm talking. You're not talking, brother. Come here. I said I'm talking. Marcus Reed slid off his bar stool. Hollis, he said, now. Hollis came out from behind the bar, wiping his hands on the rag, moving with the practiced, casual amble of a man who has broken up 1,100 of these and knows that speed is the enemy. Ryan, he said, Ryan Keller, look at me. Ryan looked at him. Come on back over to your table, son. I'm having a conversation. You're having a monologue, Hollis said. There's a difference. Lady's not interested. That's the whole story. Happens to all of us. Come on. Hollis, I have been coming to this bar for 6 years. I know you have. I have spent more money in this room than half these. I know you have. And you're going to come over here and take her side. I'm not taking anybody's side, Hollis said. There's no sides. There's a lady drinking water, and there's a man who won't sit down. That's not a side, that's just a fact. Ryan turned back to Claire. You hear that? He said. You got the whole room protecting you. Nobody's protecting me, Claire said. Sure they are. They're protecting you, she said. The bar went dead silent. Marcus Reed stopped walking. Because she hadn't said it as a threat. She hadn't leaned in. She hadn't raised her voice a single decibel. She had said it the way you say a thing that is simply and obviously true, the way you'd tell somebody the stove was hot and the flatness of it went through that room like ice water down the collar. Devin Ash felt his stomach drop. Hollis felt the hair on his arm stand up. And Ryan Keller, loud funny, 11 years in, beloved, 32 years old, standing in a bar with his beer on a stranger's table, heard it as the single most insulting sentence anybody had ever aimed at him in his life. What did you say? I said you should go back to your friends. No, you said something else. You said they're protecting me from what? He laughed, and the laugh came out wrong, came out cracked and too high, and he heard it come out wrong, and that made it worse. From what? From you. I'd rather not do this, Claire said. Do what? Any of it. There's nothing to do, Ryan said. There's nothing happening. I sat down, I said hello. You sat down, Claire said, and you put your drink on my table, and you asked me 4 questions I answered, and when the answers weren't the ones you wanted, you decided that I was the one being rude. That's what happened. That's all that happened. And now 16 people are watching you, and you can't sit down because you can't figure out how to sit down without losing. And every second you stand there, it gets a little worse, and you know it, and that's why you're still standing there. Nobody in that room had ever heard anything like it. It wasn't cruel. It was worse than cruel. It was accurate. Ryan Keller stood in the middle of his own bar with his ears roaring and his hands opening and closing at his sides and 40 eyes on the back of his neck, and he understood in some place way underneath language that she had just described him more precisely in 11 seconds than his own mother had managed in 32 years. Ryan, Devin said, brother, please. Who are you? Ryan said. It came out low. Nobody. Who are you, Tirayim? I told you, I'm nobody. Nobody talks like that. Then I'm nobody who talks like that, Claire said, and she reached into her jacket, and every single person in that room flinched, and she took out a folded 20 and set it on the table and stood up. She was 5'6". She weighed 131 pounds. She stood up the way a person stands up from a dinner table. Hollis, she said, the water was fine, thank you. And she turned to leave. And that right there was the moment where all of it could still have ended. Marcus Reed would think about that moment for the rest of his life. 3 feet of floor, 2 seconds. She was leaving. She had done everything a human being can do to give a man his dignity. Back on the way out, the door she had paid. She had thanked the bartender. She had turned her back, and all Ryan Keller had to do in that entire universe was let a woman walk past him. Hey, she kept walking. Hey, I'm talking to you. She kept walking, and Ryan Keller reached out and grabbed her arm. Marcus Reed said, don't. Hollis said, Ryan, and Claire Morgan stopped. She didn't pull. She didn't twist. She stopped and she looked down at the hand on her arm, and then she looked up at his face, and when she spoke, her voice had changed in a way that made Devin Ash's blood go cold because it hadn't gotten louder or harder or angrier. It had gotten quieter, and it had gotten patient. The way a voice gets when the person using it has already finished the argument in their head and is only saying the words out loud as a courtesy. Take your hand off me, she said. Or what? Ryan, Devin said. Ryan, let go of her. Let go of her right now. Or what? Ryan said again. Huh. Or what? Say it. You've had a lot to say for the last 10 minutes, so say it. Or what? Please take your hand off my arm. Say it. I'm asking you twice, Claire said. I don't ask 3 times. And Ryan Keller laughed. He laughed because he was drowning. He laughed because there were 16 people watching, and one of them was Devin, and one of them was Ramirez, and one of them was Hollis, who had known him 6 years. And because he had walked over here as the biggest man in the room, and somewhere in the last 4 minutes, that had stopped being true, and he could not for the life of him figure out where it had happened or how to get it back. And because there was a thing rising up in his chest that he'd been out running since he was 9 years old in a kitchen in Bakersfield, watching his father do this exact thing to his mother and swearing to God he'd never. You don't ask 3 times, he said. No. That's cute. It isn't. You know what you are, Ryan said. You're one of those women who don't finish that, Marcus Reed said. Ryan turned his head. Old man, this doesn't concern you. Son, you have got about 1 second left to be a person who made a mistake, Marcus said. And after that, you're going to be something else for the rest of your life. Let go of her arm. And for 1 heartbeat, 1 single heartbeat, Ryan almost did. Devin saw it. Devin swore later under oath in a room with a recorder running that he saw the man's fingers loosen. But then somebody at the pool table laughed. That was it. That was the whole thing. Somebody laughed, one short, ugly bark of a laugh. And it wasn't even at Ryan. It might have been at something else entirely. And Ryan Keller heard the room laughing at him, and everything he had left snapped clean through. "Look at I'm talking to you," he said, and he slapped her. The sound of it stopped the world. It was not a movie slap. There was nothing theatrical about it. It was a big man's open hand across a woman's face at full arm speed in a room with a low ceiling, and it cracked, and the crack came off the walls and came back, and a glass somewhere hit the floor, and Devin Ash heard himself make a noise he had never made before. Claire's head turned with it. She didn't stumble. She didn't cry out. Her head turned with the blow, the way a door turns on a hinge, and then she was still facing away, her hair across her cheek, absolutely motionless. Nobody moved. 16 people. Nobody moved. Hollis had his hand up. Marcus was frozen mid-step. Ramirez had gone white. Devin had both arms out toward his friend's back like a man reaching for someone already over the edge. And Ryan Keller stood there with his hands still open and his chest heaving and his mouth half open. And he was already in that first quarter second starting to understand what he had done. He said. Claire didn't move. "Hey," he said. His voice had gone thin. "Hey, I didn't." Marcus Reed, 63 years old, retired Navy, standing 4 feet away with his heart going like a hammer, watched the woman in the corner and understood something that would keep him up at 2 in the morning for the next 20 years. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't stunned. She wasn't hurt in any way that showed. She was standing perfectly still, with her head turned and her weight had shifted. That was the thing, that was the detail Marcus caught. And nobody else in that room was equipped to see. Her weight had come off her heels and onto the balls of her feet, and her right shoulder had dropped 1 inch, and her hands had come open, and her breathing had gone slow. She wasn't reeling. She was letting the room finish reacting. She was waiting for everyone to get their gasp out of the way. Marcus realized with a lurch that went all the way down to the floor, being polite. "Oh no," Marcus said. "What?" Hollis whispered. "What? Get back," Marcus said. "Everybody, get back, right now, get back." And Claire Morgan turned her head. She turned it slowly, all the way around, until she was looking at Ryan Keller. There was blood in the corner of her mouth, and she didn't wipe it. There was a red handprint rising on her cheek, and she didn't touch it, and her face was calm. That was what broke him, not the blood, not the silence. Her face was calm completely. Calm, calmer than it had been all night. Calm the way deep water is calm, and there was something behind her eyes now that had not been there before, something that had been buried under 6 years of quiet booths and glasses of water and small, empty smiles, something that had come up from a long way down and was now looking out at him through a stranger's face. Ryan Keller took a step backward. He didn't decide to. His body did it without asking him. "Ma'am," Devin said, and his voice cracked. "Ma'am, I am so." "You should sit down," Claire said. She wasn't talking to Devin. Ryan's mouth moved. Nothing came out. "Sit down," Claire said. "And put your hands on the table and don't stand up again until I'm gone. Do that and this is over, and tomorrow you'll be a man who did a bad thing on a bad night. That's the whole offer. That's everything I have. Do it," Marcus said. "Son, do it. Sit down." "And if I don't," Ryan said. Claire looked at him for a long moment. "Then you'll find out why I don't ask 3 times, she said. And Staff Sergeant Ryan Keller, 32 years old, 11 years and 2 deployments, the loudest man in every room he had ever entered, squared his shoulders and set his jaw and stepped forward. He stepped forward, and Claire Morgan didn't move at all. That was the first thing Devin Ash noticed, and he'd remember it forever. A man that size comes at you. Everybody moves. Everybody. You flinch, you raise your hands, you shift your feet at something. Your body does it before your brain files the paperwork. She stood there with her hands loose at her sides and let him come. "Ma'am," Hollis said. "Stay where you are," Claire said, not to Ryan, to Hollis, to the room. "All of you, stay exactly where you are." "Lady, you don't understand what he—" "I understand," Claire said. Ryan Keller took a second step, and his hand came up, and it came up open. And that was the part that finished him, because a fist means a fight, and an open hand means a lesson, and Ryan Keller wasn't fighting her. He was still trying to teach her something. He never got to the third step. Nobody in that bar could tell you afterward what happened in the next second and a half. Not one of the 16. Devin Ash, who was 6 feet away and stone sober and had 11 years of hands-on training himself, gave a statement 3 days later that said only he reached and then he was on the floor. And when they pushed him on it, he said it again, exactly the same, because it was the truth and it was all he had. Marcus Reed saw it. Marcus Reed saw it because Marcus Reed had spent 19 years standing next to men who moved like that. And even he only caught it in pieces the way you catch lightning after in the shape it burns behind your eyes. She didn't block the hand. She took it. Her left hand came up and met his wrist on the way in and rode it, went with it, added to it in Ryan Keller's own arm. Speed, all that strength, all that shoulder. 210 pounds of Marine leaning into an open hand slap kept going exactly where he'd sent it, except now it was going there faster and there wasn't any woman at the end of it anymore. His weight went out over his front foot. His hip came around, and her right hand was already at his elbow, turning it a few degrees in a direction. Elbows don't turn, and then her foot was behind his ankle, and the whole enormous architecture of him came apart the way a stepladder comes apart when somebody kicks the middle out. He hit the floor face first, not sideways, not on his back. Face first with his own arm folded up behind him and his own momentum driving him down, and the sound was not a crash. It was flat and dull and final, like a sandbag dropped off a truck bed. The glass in Ramirez's hand didn't fall. He just stopped holding it in any meaningful way, and it sat in his fingers forgotten for the next 4 minutes. Claire came down with him. That was the part that broke Marcus. She didn't stand over him. She rode him down with one knee between his shoulder blades and his wrist folded in her hands like a woman closing an umbrella, and she was not breathing hard, and her hair hadn't even come out of place. "Don't," she said. Ryan bucked once, and she moved her thumb half an inch, and he screamed. He screamed, Staff Sergeant Ryan Keller in front of his own men in his own bar. It came out of him high and raw, and it was over in a second, but every single person in that room heard it. And Devin Ash felt his eyes sting because he had known this man for 6 years, and he had never heard him make any sound like that. "Stop," Claire said. "Stop moving. You're making it worse. Your arm's fine right now. It'll stay fine if you stop. Get off. Stop moving. Get off me." "Ryan," she said, and it was the first time she'd used his name, and it landed on him like a bucket of water. "Listen to my voice. Your shoulder is at about 11 degrees from where it wants to be. You've got maybe 4 more before something in there tears and doesn't grow back. I'm not going to take you there, but you have to stop moving because I can't hold you still and hold you safe at the same time if you're fighting me." He stopped moving. The whole room heard him stop. "Good," she said. "Breathe. You broke my—" "I didn't break anything. Breathe." He breathed. It came out of him in a shudder. "Again." He breathed again. "That's it," Claire said, and God help him. Devin Ash would think about this for years. She said it kindly. She said it the way you'd talk a spooked horse down. There was no triumph in her voice at all, and somehow that was the most terrifying thing that had happened in that bar all night. Hollis had the phone in his hand. "I'm calling it in." "Don't," Marcus said. "Marcus, he assaulted a—" "Not yet." "Are you out of your—" "Hollis, look at her," Marcus said. "Look at her hands. Look at where her thumb is. Look at her knee. Look at her breathing. That woman has been on the floor for 11 seconds with a 210-pound man under her, and she has not taken one hard breath. Now you call whoever you want, but you're going to want to know who you're calling about first." Claire's eyes came up. Found Marcus. Held. And Marcus Reed felt his stomach drop out through the floor because she had heard every word, and she knew that he knew, and she was deciding right now what to do about it. "Sir," she said, "sit down." "I'd rather stand." "I'd rather you sat." "Ma'am," Marcus said, "I'm 63 years old and I've got a bad hip, and I'm not going to be a problem for you, but I'm not going to sit down either." Something moved at the corner of her mouth. It wasn't a smile. It was the ghost of where a smile used to live. "Fair enough," she said. Under her, Ryan Keller had started to shake. It wasn't fear. It was worse than fear. It was the shakes that come when a man's whole understanding of himself gets taken out from under him at once, when the floor he's been standing on for 32 years turns out to have been a rug and somebody pulled it, and now he's just a body on the ground with an arm behind his back and every person he loves watching. "Devin," he said. It came out muffled against the floor. "Devin, I'm here, brother." "Devin, I'm right here. Don't look at me." "Ryan, don't look at me. Turn around. Turn around. Don't look at me." And Devin Ash, 26 years old, who had followed that man through 2 field exercises and one very bad night in Okinawa, turned his back on him and looked at the wall, and his jaw was working, and he did not make a sound. Claire let go. That was the second thing nobody could explain. She just let go. She came off him in one motion, stood up, stepped back 2 paces, and put her hands where he could see them. No lock, no pin, no knee. She gave a man who had just put his hand on her face every inch of room he needed to get up and try again. "Okay," she said. "You can get up." He didn't. "Nobody's going to touch you," she said. "Get up." He didn't move. "Ryan, don't say my name," he said into the floor. "Get up. Don't say my name." And that was the sound of a man breaking. Not the scream. The scream had been his shoulder. This was something else entirely, and half the room looked away because there are things you're not supposed to watch happen to a person. Ramirez finally set his glass down. His hand was shaking so badly it rattled on the wood. Claire looked at Hollis. "Is there a back room?" "There's an office." "Take him there." "Ma'am, I really think we ought to—" "Take him to the office," Claire said, "and put him in a chair and stay with him, and don't let anybody in there with a phone. Not for his sake, for yours. Because in about 90 seconds, one of these people's going to remember they have a camera, and if that hits the internet tonight, there will be no version of this where anything good happens to anybody in this room, including you." Hollis stared at her. "Why do you care?" he said. And it was such a simple question and so honest, and it came out of him with such raw confusion that the whole room went quiet again. Claire didn't answer right away. "I don't," she said finally, "but I've seen what happens after, and after is always worse than the thing itself." She turned to go. "Ma'am," Devin said. She stopped. "Ma'am, my name's Devin Ash. I'm a corporal. He couldn't get his hands to stay still. Ma'am, I want you to know I tried to stop him. I want you to know I tried." "I know you did. I should have tried harder. I should have," his voice went. "He's not like that. Ma'am, I swear to God, he's not like that. I've known him 6 years, and I have never in my life seen him." "He is like that," Claire said. "Ma'am, he is like that," she said again gently, "because he did it. That's what like that means. It doesn't mean it's all he is. It just means it's in there. And every man in this room who tells himself it isn't in him too is the one I'd worry about." Devin Ash opened his mouth and nothing came out. She walked to the corner booth and picked up her folded 20 off the table and put it back down again. And Marcus Reed noticed her hand shake one time. For half a second, her hand shook, and she looked at it. She looked at her own hand the way a person looks at a phone ringing with a number they don't recognize, and something crossed her face that had nothing to do with anybody in that bar. And Marcus Reed understood in that instant that whatever had just happened on that floor, it had not happened to Claire Morgan tonight. It had happened to her a long time ago, and tonight had only been the echo. "Hollis," she said, "was there a lemon?" "What?" "You asked me if I wanted lemon. I said no." She picked up the glass, drank the rest of the water in it, set it down. "I should have said yes. It was a nice thing to offer, and I said no because saying no is easier, and I've been doing the easier thing for 6 years. So, yes, thank you." And she walked out. The door swung shut behind her, and for 11 full seconds, nobody in the Iron Lantern said a word. Then Ramirez said, "What just happened?" Nobody answered him. "What just happened?" he said again. "Somebody tell me what just—" "She dropped him," Devin said. "I know she dropped him. I was standing right—" "No," Devin said. "Listen to me. She didn't drop him. He came at her, and she took his hand, and she gave it back to him, and he put himself on the floor. She never hit him. Ramirez, listen, she never hit him one time." Ramirez stared. "Go back through it," Devin said, and his voice was rising and he couldn't stop it. "Go back through the whole thing, every single second of it. He grabbed her arm and she asked him to let go. Twice. He slapped her and she offered him a way out. She told him to sit down and put his hands on the table and it would be over. She gave him 3 exits, man. 3. And when he came at her the third time, she took him down without closing her hand once. And then she let him go and she asked him if he was okay. She didn't ask if he was okay. She told him to breathe, Devin said. She got down on the floor next to a man who had just hit her in the face, and she talked him through his breathing so he wouldn't tear his own shoulder. Who does that, Ramirez? Who in the name of God does that? Marcus Reed said quietly, somebody who's done it before. Every head in that bar turned. Marcus was still standing where he'd stopped. He had not moved in 2 minutes. He was looking at the door. Say that again, Devin said. I said she's done it before, Marcus said. That wasn't a technique. That was a habit. You don't talk a man through his breathing under a shoulder lock because you learned it in a class. You do that because you've done it enough times that talking is just part of the movement. He turned around. That woman has put peoples on the ground so many times that being kind about it is muscle memory. Hollis said, Marcus, what are you telling me? I'm telling you, Marcus said, that in 19 years I met maybe 4 people who moved like that. 4 in 19 years. And every one of them was somebody I wasn't supposed to have met. That's not, and I'm telling you, Marcus went on, that not one of those 4 could have done what she just did. What are you talking about? She flattened him in a second and a half. Not the takedown, Marcus said, the talking. The 4 I knew, if that man had put a hand on their face, he does not get up. Ever. That's not me being dramatic, Hollis. That's me telling you what those people are. She had him. She had every legal and moral right on God's earth, 16 witnesses, and she let go and told him to breathe. He looked at the door again. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that. That's not training. That's something a person had to decide. In the office, Ryan Keller sat in a chair with his good hand over his face. Hollis stood in the doorway with his arms folded. Is she gone? Ryan said. She's gone. Did she? He stopped, started again. Did she call anybody? No. Did you? Not yet. Ryan laughed. It was a terrible sound. Not yet. Son, I've got 16 people out there and a security camera and a woman with a handprint on her face who walked out my door without giving me a name. I don't know what yet means anymore. Hollis. Yeah, I hit her. I know you did. I hit her, Ryan said, and his voice cracked right down the middle. I hit her, Hollis. I put my hand on a woman's face in front of... He couldn't finish. My dad used to, my dad. And then he was crying, and it was awful. And Hollis stood there and let him, because there wasn't a single thing in the world he could have said that would have helped. It was 11:41 at night. At 11:52, Devin Ash walked back to the corner booth to get his jacket and stopped. There was something on the floor under the edge of the table. He crouched down, picked it up. It was a coin, not a quarter, heavier, thicker, about the size of a silver dollar, and heavy in a way that money never is worn smooth around the rim from years of being turned over in somebody's fingers, dark with age. He turned it over in the light. Marcus, he said. Marcus didn't come. Marcus was talking to Ramirez. Marcus, in a minute. Marcus, come here right now. Something in the boy's voice brought him across the room in 4 steps. Devin held it out on his palm. And Marcus Reed, 63 years old, retired a man who had spent 19 years learning how to keep his face perfectly still, looked down at a coin in a corporal's hand, and felt every drop of blood in his body go somewhere else. Where did you get that? He said. It was under her table. Give it to me. Marcus wished, Devin, son, give it to me right now and don't ask me why. Devin gave it to him. Marcus turned it over. Once, his thumb found the edge of it and ran around the rim, and it was an old man's gesture, an unconscious one, the way you touch something you recognize before your mouth catches up. Hollis, he said. Hollis, get out here. I'm a little busy. Hollis. Hollis came out of the office. Your cameras, Marcus said. How long do they hold? 30 days, wipe arm. Pull tonight, all of it, every angle. Put it on something that isn't connected to the internet, and then take that thing out of the building and put it somewhere that isn't your house and isn't your car and isn't this bar. Marcus, what in the hell? And then I want you to think very carefully, Marcus said, about every single person who walked through that door in the last 2 hours. And I want you to tell me if any of them came in after she did and left before she did. The room went quiet. Hollis's mouth opened, closed. Marcus, Devin said, Marcus, what is that coin? Marcus didn't answer. Marcus, what is it? It's nothing, Marcus said. It's a challenge coin. Units make them. Every unit in the service makes them. It's a tradition. It doesn't mean... Then why are your hands shaking? Devin said. Marcus Reed looked up. And Devin Ash, who had watched a woman fold his best friend onto a barroom floor 20 minutes ago and thought that was the most frightening thing he would ever see, discovered that he had been wrong. Because the old man at the bar, the quiet one, the one nobody looked at, the one who came in 3 nights a week and nursed a single beer had gone the color of paper. Because there's no unit on it, Marcus said. What? There's no unit on it. There's no name. There's no crest. There's no motto. He held it up between 2 fingers. Every challenge coin ever struck has a unit on it, Devin. That's the entire point of the thing. That's what it's for. This one's got a number on one side and nothing at all on the other. So what's the number? Marcus closed his hand. Marcus, what's the number? You need to go home, Marcus said. Marcus. Devin, listen to me. I'm asking you as a man who has been where you have never been. Go home. Take Ramirez. Take all of them. Go home, and tomorrow when somebody asks you what happened here tonight, you tell them a Marine got drunk and got put on his back by a civilian, and that is all you saw and all you know. He put the coin in his pocket. And if anybody ever asked you about a coin, you never saw a coin. That's obstruction. That's survival, Marcus said. Yours, Ramirez said from across the room. Is somebody going to tell me who she was? And that was when the door opened. Every single head in the bar snapped around. It was a woman, mid-40s, jeans jacket, hair pulled back. She came in the way people come in when they've been in a place before 3 steps easy, and she stopped and looked around at 16 people staring at her with their hearts in their throats, and she said, "Whoa, bad night." "We're closed," Hollis said. "Sign says, we're closed." She held up her hands amiable and backed out, and the door shut, and Ramirez put his head down on the bar and made a noise like a man who has just remembered how to breathe. "Jesus," he said. Jesus, Jesus. "Sit down before you fall down," Hollis said. That's Karen. That's Karen from the... She does the, oh my God. Oh my God, I thought. I know. I know what you thought, Hollis said. Everybody in here thought it. Sit down. And Marcus Reed stood in the middle of that room with a coin in his pocket and understood with total and perfect clarity that every man in the Iron Lantern ejection had just had the exact same reaction to a door opening, and that not one of them could have told you what they were afraid of, and that all of them had been right to be afraid anyway. Because the question wasn't who she was. The question was, who else knew she'd been here? 2 blocks away, in a truck she'd bought for cash 11 months ago, under a name that wasn't hers. Claire Morgan sat with both hands on the wheel and did not start the engine. Her cheek had gone hot and thick. She could feel her own pulse in it. That was fine. She'd had worse from people who'd meant it more. She checked her jacket pocket. Left, nothing. Right, nothing. She checked it again. Then she sat there for a long moment, absolutely still with her eyes closed and her forehead resting against the top of the wheel, and she said out loud in an empty truck to nobody, "No, She got out. She made it 4 steps back toward the bar before she stopped, because there was a car at the end of the block that had not been at the end of the block when she pulled in. It was parked badly. That was the thing. Nose out half a foot off the curb in a spot with plenty of room, and nobody parks like that unless they intend to leave in a hurry and don't intend to be there long enough for anybody to complain. She didn't look at it. She turned around and walked back to the truck and got in and started it and pulled out slow and legal with her signal on, and she watched in the mirror as the car at the end of the block sat perfectly still and did not follow her. Which was how she knew, because if they were following her, they'd have followed. They weren't following her. They were waiting for the bar to empty. Claire Morgan drove 400 yards and pulled into an alley and killed the lights and sat in the dark with her hands on the wheel and her heart going harder than it had gone all night, harder than when he grabbed her, harder than when he hit her, harder than when she'd had 210 pounds of Marine folded up under her knee. 6 years. 6 years of corner booths and glasses of water and a name that wasn't hers, and never once, not one single time in 6 years, had she let herself be looked at by more than 3 people at once. And tonight, 16 people had watched her move, and one of them had picked up her coin. Marcus, Devin said, you didn't answer me. Who was she? Marcus Reed looked at the door for a long time. I don't know her name, he said. I don't know her face. I never saw her before tonight. He put his hand in his pocket and closed it around the coin. But I know what that number means, and I know that there are 11 people alive on this earth who are allowed to carry one, and I know that the last time I heard about that program was in a room with no windows in 2013, and the man who told me about it is dead. Devin's mouth had gone dry. How'd he die? He didn't, Marcus said. You just said, he's dead, Marcus said. He's got a headstone. He's got a folded flag on his mother's mantle in Ohio. His name's on a wall. He turned and looked at Devin Ash, and I had lunch with him in 2019. The bar was silent. Go home, son, Marcus said. Devin Ash didn't move. Go home. Marcus, Devin said, what did we just do? And Marcus Reed, who had spent 19 years being nobody, and 6 years coming to the same bar 3 nights a week because the alternative was a house with nobody in it, said the truest thing he had said in a decade. We noticed her, he said. God help us. We noticed her. It was 11:58 when Marcus Reed made the worst decision of his life, and he made it in about 4 seconds. Hollis, he said, lock the front. Marcus, lock the front, kill the neon, and get everybody away from the windows. There's 16 people in here who want to go home. Then they can want it standing up, Marcus said. Devin, how many of your boys are drinking? Devin. Ash blinked at him. What? How many of them have had more than 2? All of them, except Ramirez, he's driving. Then Ramirez is the only one who leaves, Marcus said. Ramirez, come here. Ramirez came still white, still shaky, 23 years old and 3 hours into the worst night of his life. Sir. Don't call me sir. Sorry, There's a car at the end of the block, Marcus said. Gray sedan parked nose out 1/2 foot off the curb. You're going to walk out that door, and you're going to walk to your truck like a man who's had 1 beer and wants his bed, and you're not going to look at that car, and you're going to drive home. Not past it, away from it. And when you get home, you're going to text Devin 1 word. What word? Anything, Marcus said. Any word you want. I just need to know you got there. Ramirez looked at Devin. Devin looked at Marcus. Marcus, Devin said, and what's the car? Probably nothing. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got, Marcus said. Ramirez, go. He went. Devin watched through the gap in the blind, and Marcus watched Devin watch, and the whole bar held its breath for 90 seconds until Devin said, he's out. He's turning. He's gone. Did the car move? No. Did anybody in it move? Marcus, I can't see if there's anybody in it. Is there condensation on the windshield? Devin looked again. Yeah, he said slowly. Yeah, there's the bottom's fogged, the bottom third. Marcus closed his eyes. What's that mean? Devin said. It means somebody's breathing in it, Marcus said. Hollis put both hands flat on the bar and leaned on them like a man who has just been told his roof is on fire. Okay, he said. Okay, I'm calling the sheriff. You do that? You're not going to stop me. No, Marcus said. Call them. Please call them. I'd love for a deputy to roll up here with his lights on and knock on that window and find out it's a guy waiting on his wife to finish her shift, because then I'm an old fool and everybody laughs and we all go home. He looked up. That's the best outcome available to us tonight, Hollis. Me being wrong, I want to be wrong so bad I can taste it. Make the call. Hollis made the call. At 12:04, the dispatcher told him a unit was 18 minutes out. At 12:05, the gray sedan pulled away from the curb and drove off with its lights on perfectly legally and turned left at the corner and was gone. There, Hollis said, and his voice was too loud with relief. There you go. He was waiting on somebody. He got a call, he left. That's it. That's the whole thing. 18 minutes out, Marcus said. What? The dispatcher told you 18 minutes. That was 1 minute ago, and he left 30 seconds later. Marcus turned and looked at him. How'd he know? The room went so quiet, Devin could hear the cooler compressor kick on. That's a coincidence, Hollis said. Sure. That's a coincidence, Marcus. I said sure. Don't do that. Don't do that thing where you say sure and mean something else. Say what you mean. Marcus took the coin out of his pocket and held it and did not look at it. There's two ways he knew, he said. One, he's got somebody on the county frequency, which any idiot with $40 and a scanner app can do, and which means he came here prepared to know when the law was coming, which is not a thing a man waiting on his wife does. Or two, he stopped. Or two what? Or two, he was never waiting on anything, Marcus said. He was just confirming she'd been here. And the second he saw us lock the door and kill the lights, he had his answer, because that is not what a bar full of drunk Marines does after a bar fight. That's what a bar full of people who just figured something out does. Devin Ash sat down hard on a stool. Marcus, he said. Marcus, I need you to say a real sentence to me, in plain English, right now. Ask me a real question. Are we in danger? Marcus thought about lying. He'd have said later that he thought about it for a long time. It was actually about half a second. No, he said, not yet. That's the truth, son, not yet. Nobody's coming through that door tonight. Whoever that was, he wasn't here for us, and he wasn't here for her, or he'd have moved when she walked out that door alone at 11:40 and got in a truck by herself on an empty street. He turned the coin over once. He was here to find out something, and he found it out, and now he's gone to tell somebody. Tell them what? That she's real, Marcus said. At 12:19, a sheriff's deputy named Alvarez came through the door, and Hollis told him a Marine got drunk and grabbed a lady, and the lady put him down and left, and Alvarez looked at Ryan Keller sitting in the office with his good hand over his face and a shoulder he couldn't lift, and asked if the lady wanted to press charges. She's gone, Hollis said. She give the name? No. She leave anything, card receipt, anything. And every man in that bar stood there, while Hollis Bryant, 61 years old, who had never in his life so much as lied about his taxes, looked a deputy in the eye and said, Nope. Alvarez wrote for a minute. Sarge, he said into the office, you want to file on her? Ryan didn't move his hand. Sarge. No, Ryan said. You sure? Because from where I'm standing, you've got a shoulder that's not sitting right, and 16 people who... I hit her, Ryan said. The deputy stopped writing. Say again. Ryan took his hand down. His eyes were destroyed. I slapped her in the face, he said, in front of everybody. She asked me twice to take my hand off her arm, and I didn't, and then I hit her, and then I came at her again, and she put me on the floor, and she could have broken my arm off at the shoulder, and she didn't, and then she told me to breathe. He laughed. It was the worst sound Devin had ever heard. So no, sir, I don't want to file on her. I want you to write down exactly what I said, and I want it in the report, and I want you to send it to my command tonight, because if I have to sit here one more hour being the guy people are protecting, I'm going to put my head through that wall. Alvarez looked around the room. Anybody dispute that? He said. Nobody said a word. Corporal, Alvarez said to Devin, that how it happened. Devin Ash looked at the back of his friend's head. Yes, sir, he said. That's how it happened. At 12:41, the deputy left, and Hollis locked the door behind him, and the whole bar exhaled at once. And Ryan Keller stood up out of the chair and walked out of the office and said, Marcus, give me the coin. Marcus didn't turn around. I said, give me the coin. How do you know about a coin? Marcus said, Osina. Because I could hear every word you said through that wall for the last 40 minutes, Ryan said. Because it's a bar office, Marcus. It's not a vault. It's got a door with a gap under it. I heard all of it. The number, the 11 people, the man with a headstone you had lunch with. He held out his good hand. Give it to me. No. That's mine too. It is not remotely yours, Marcus said. She dropped it because of me. She dropped it because you put your hand on her face, Marcus said, and it was the first time all night the old man's voice had come up above conversational, and it went through the room like a crack in ice. That's not a claim, son. That's a debt. Those aren't the same thing, and if you can't tell the difference, you're going to spend the rest of your life confused about why nobody forgives you. Ryan's hand stayed out, then it came down. Then tell me what it is, he said. No. Marcus. No. Marcus, I have to know what I did. And there it was. That was the sentence. Devin Ash heard it and felt something turn over in his chest because he'd known Ryan Keller for 6 years and he had never once heard the man ask for anything. Marcus Reed turned around. Why you wait, Honey said, What? Why do you have to know, man? Because you want to fix it, Marcus said. because you want to find her and apologize and have her tell you it's all right, and then you get to go home and sleep. Is that it? Because if that's it, son, I'm telling you right now, that woman does not have that to give you. That's not on the menu. You are not going to get absolution from her. You're not going to get closure. You're not going to get one single thing that makes tonight sit any easier in your chest, not ever. And the sooner you make peace with that, the better your life is going to be. That's not why, Ryan said. Then why? Because she's in trouble, Ryan said, and I'm the reason. The bar went silent. Say that again, Marcus said quietly. You said it yourself. 16 people watched her move. You said she'd spent years being nobody. And his jaw worked. I made her move in front of 16 people, in front of a camera. She was sitting in a corner, drinking water and minding her own business and being invisible, which is apparently the only thing keeping her alive. And I walked over there and I took it away from her because she wouldn't laugh at my jokes. He looked up. So don't tell me it's not mine, Marcus. It's the only thing in this world that's mine. I did that. Nobody else did that. I did it, and now there's a car at the end of the block. Nobody breathed. Well, Marcus said, yeah, that's the first true thing you've said all night. I know. Sit down, Marcus said. All of you, sit down, because I'm going to tell you something now, and I'm only going to tell it once, and when I'm done, every one of you is going to wish I hadn't. They sat, 11 men and one bartender in a bar with the lights off and the neon dead, and the door locked at 12:52 in the morning. In 1998, Marcus said the Navy had a problem. He turned the coin over in his fingers. The problem was that we were very good at breaking doors and very bad at everything that happened afterward. We could put 12 men on a compound in the dark, and we could take that compound apart in 90 seconds, and we could not for the life of us tell you who was standing in it. We'd hit the right house in the wrong family. We'd hit the right family in the wrong week. So somebody in a room with no windows had an idea, and the idea was this. What if instead of sending 12 men to break the door, we sent one person to walk through the front of it 6 months earlier? Devin said, you mean like a spy? No, Marcus said. That's the part everybody gets wrong. A spy collects. A spy sits in an embassy and takes people to dinner and buys secrets. This wasn't that. This was somebody who could do both jobs, who could be a nurse in a clinic for 8 months and learn a whole town every name, every debt, every affair, and then on the one night it mattered could clear a room. That's not a job, Hollis said. No, Marcus agreed. It's not. It's two jobs that cancel each other out. The people who are good at the first one are curious and warm and they like people, and the people who are good at the second one are not. And finding a human being who could do both was so nearly impossible that in 14 years of trying, they qualified. 11, Devin said. 11, Marcus said. The words sat there. Out of how many, Ryan asked. I don't know. Hundreds. Somebody told me once it was over 400 through the pipeline. 11 came out the other side. He set the coin on the bar face down. And they didn't get a patch, and they didn't get a ribbon, and they didn't get a unit, because there wasn't a unit. There was a budget line and a room and a man named Whitmore. What they got was this. 12 heads leaned in. There's no crest, Marcus said. There's no name. There's no motto. There is a number on one side and nothing on the other, and the number isn't a serial number, and it isn't a rank, and it isn't a date. Then what is it? Ryan said. Marcus turned the coin over. It's what number you were, he said. Devin Ash felt the room tilt. Out of 11, he said, out of 11. So this one says, don't, Marcus said. Marcus, Devin, I'm asking you, don't ask me that. What number is it? Ryan said. Marcus Reed put his thumb over the face of the coin and pressed it flat against the bar, and he looked at Ryan Keller and he said 4. 4, Ryan repeated. Yeah. So there's 10 others. No, Marcus said, and the way he said it stopped Ryan's mouth dead. There's not 10 others, Marcus said. That's the thing I've been trying to work out for the last hour, and I finally got there, and you want to be wrong about it worse than I've ever wanted to be wrong about anything. He took his hand off the coin. In 2013, in a room with no windows, a man I trusted told me about this program. He told me it had been closed. He told me it had been closed hard, not wound down, not defunded. Closed. And when I asked him why, he said 7 words to me, and then he changed the subject, and I never brought it up again for the rest of his life. What did he say? Hollis said. Marcus was quiet for a second. He said, "It turned out we could only count to 3. Nobody understood it. Devin understood it 4 seconds later and stood straight up off his stool. "Sit down," Marcus said. "No, no, no, no. You're saying, sit down, son. You're saying the first 3. I'm saying." Marcus said that I have had 11 years to think about that sentence, and there are 2 ways to read it. One is that the first 3 worked, and everybody after was a failure, and the program got shut down because they couldn't reproduce it. That's the boring one. That's probably the true one. Programs die like that every day. "And the other one," Ryan said. "The other one is that they made 11, Marcus said, and by 2013 they could only count to 3. The cooler compressor hummed. "How many are left?" Ryan said. His voice had gone strange. "I don't know." "Marcus, how many are left?" "I don't know." "You said 11 people alive on this earth are allowed to carry one." "I said aloud," Marcus said. "I did not say alive. I chose that word on purpose an hour ago, and you all heard what you wanted to hear." He picked the coin up. 11 people were ever allowed to carry one of these. And tonight in a veterans bar in a town of 11,000 people, number 4 sat in a corner booth for 2 hours drinking water with her back to the wall, watching the door in a mirror, and when she left this on the floor. "She dropped it," Devin said. "Did she?" Marcus said. The whole bar stopped. "What?" Devin said. "You tell me," Marcus said. "You were closest. Go back through it. Where'd you find it?" "Under the table. Under the edge of the table," Marcus said. "Not on the floor by the door where she walked. Not by the booth where she stood up and got tackled by nobody, because nobody touched her. She was never touched. She never went to the ground. Her jacket never came open. Her hair never moved." He held it up. "She was not in a scuffle, Devin. She stood there and had a conversation and got hit in the face one time and turned around and walked out. So you've explained to me the physics by which a coin that lives in a zipped inside pocket comes out of it and lands under the far edge of a table she never went under." Ryan Keller said very quietly, "She put it there." "Yeah," Marcus said. "When?" "When she reached into her jacket for the 20, Marcus said, and every man in this room flinched and not one of you was looking at her other hand." Devin Ash put both hands on top of his head and turned in a slow circle and said something under his breath that nobody asked him to repeat. "Why?" Ryan said. "Why would she?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Marcus said. "Marcus? Why would she leave that? You just told me that thing is the single most dangerous object in this county. She spent 6 years being nobody, and she walked out of here and left the one thing on earth that says who she is under a table in a bar full of witnesses. That's insane. He stopped. "Go on," Marcus said. "That's not insane," Ryan said slowly. "No, that's a message." "Yeah, it is," Marcus said. "Now you tell me who it's for." And that was the moment the phone on the bar buzzed. Every man in the room jumped. Devin grabbed it, looked at it. His face went slack. "It's Ramirez," he said. "Well, what's it say?" Hollis snapped. Devin didn't answer. "Devin, what's it say?" Devin turned the phone around. The message was one word exactly like Marcus had asked for. The word was Hollis. "That's not a word," Ramirez's message said in Devin's head in Ramirez's voice, and Devin said out loud stupidly, "He was supposed to send any word." "He did," Marcus said. "He sent that one." And Hollis Bryant, 61, who had been standing behind his own bar for 30 years and had never once been afraid in it, felt his knees go loose. "Why'd he send my name?" he said. "Call him," Marcus said. Devin called. It rang and rang and rang. "Ramirez, pick up, pick up, pick up, pick." The line clicked. "Ramirez." There was breathing. "Ramirez, buddy, talk to me." "He's fine," a woman said. The bar went absolutely perfectly still. Devin Ash's mouth opened and nothing came out. "He's fine," Claire Morgan said. "He's sitting in his truck in his driveway, and he's got both hands on the wheel, and he's about 9 seconds from throwing up. But he's fine, and he's going to stay fine, and in about a minute I'm going to hand him this phone back, and he's going to go inside and go to bed." "Ma'am," Devin said. "Is that Corporal Ash?" "Yes, ma'am." "Devin." "Yes, ma'am." "Is Marcus there?" Devin looked up. Every man in that room was staring at the phone like it was a live grenade. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "He's right here." "Put me on the speaker," Claire said. Devin put her on speaker. Marcus, she said. Ma'am, you know what it is? Yes, ma'am. How? 19 years, Marcus said, and a man named Yates. There was a very long pause on the line. Yates, Claire said. Yes, ma'am. Say his first name. Ma'am, say his first name Marcus, or I hang up and you never hear my voice again as long as you live. Peter, Marcus said. Peter Yates, bald 6'2", terrible knees. Ate the same sandwich every single day for 9 years, tuna on white, no lettuce, and would fight you about it. Nobody breathed. And then Claire Morgan laughed. It was small, and it was tired, and it came apart at the end, and it was the first human sound anybody in that room had heard out of her all night. He'd want you to know, she said, that he switched to turkey in 2016. Ma'am, as he, Marcus, Claire said, listen to me now. There was a car at the end of your block. I know. Gray sedan nose out. I know. It left when the sheriff got called. I know, Marcus said. I've been sitting here for an hour telling myself I'm an old man who reads too much into parking. You're not, Claire said. The words landed on that room like a physical weight. Ma'am, Ryan said. Who's that? Ryan Keller closed his eyes. It's the man who hit you, he said. There was silence on the line. Ma'am, Not now, Claire said. Not cruelly, just flatly the way you'd move a chair out of a doorway. Marcus, the coin. I've got it. I know you do. Ma'am, why'd you leave it? Because there were 16 people in that room, Claire said, and I had about 4 seconds to figure out which one of them would know what it was, and I had one shot at it, and I picked you. Why me? Because you didn't look at me once all night, she said. Everybody in that bar looked at me, every single one, some of them twice. You looked at the mirror behind Hollis at the same 8 moments I did, and I clocked it 40 minutes before that man ever stood up, and I sat there and let it happen anyway, because I wanted to know what you'd do. Marcus Reed put his hand over his mouth. Ma'am, he said, ma'am, are you telling me you knew? Marcus, are you telling me you sat there for 2 hours and let that whole thing happen? Because you, Marcus, Claire said, ask me the right question. What's the right question? You've had it for an hour, she said. You said it out loud in your own bar, and you're too scared to finish it. So finish it. Marcus Reed took the coin off the bar and held it in his fist and said the sentence that would take the floor out from under every man in that room. How many of you are left? And Claire Morgan said, 1. 1, Marcus Reed repeated. 1 Wayne. Ma'am, you asked, I answered. Don't make me say it a third time. Hollis Bryant sat down on his own bar, just sat right down on it sideways like a man whose legs had quit filing paperwork. Devin Ash had the phone in both hands and was holding it out in front of him the way you hold something that's leaking. 10, Devin said. 10 people. Devin, 10 people are dead. 9, Claire said. 1 of them isn't. And Marcus Reed felt the whole room slide out from under him because he had spent an hour and 11 years building toward that exact sentence and had never once had the courage to lay the last brick. Say that again, he said. You heard it. Ma'am, say it again. 9 of them are dead, Claire said, and 1 of them isn't, and the one who isn't is the reason the other 9 are. And I have spent 6 years drinking water in corners in towns like yours, waiting for him to make a mistake. It was 1:03 in the morning. Ma'am, Ryan Keller said, I told you not now. Ma'am, please. Sergeant, I'm going to say this once, and I want you to hear it in the spirit it's given. You are not part of this. You are a thing that happened tonight. You are weather. I'm not angry at you, and I'm not forgiving you, and I'm not thinking about you at all. And the reason I'm not is that in about 6 hours, a man is going to sit down at a desk and read a report with your name on it and my description in it, and everything after that happens, whether you and I ever speak again or not. So sit there and let the adults work. Nobody had ever heard anybody talk to Ryan Keller like that. He sat there and let the adults work. Ma'am, Marcus said, in the car. The car was a look. A look. They wanted to know if the report was real, Claire said. Somebody got a ping at 11:44 tonight. 16 witnesses, a female civilian, a takedown in a veterans bar in a Navy town. That's not news anywhere on God's earth, except in exactly one office, and in that office, it's a 5-alarm fire. So they send a body to sit at the end of the block and confirm the geometry. And when the sheriff got called and your lights went out, he had everything he needed and he left. What did he have? He had that you locked the door, Claire said. Marcus. He had that a bar full of drunk Marines went dark and quiet after a fight instead of loud and stupid. That's it. That's all he needed. Because that means somebody in that room understood what they saw, and there's only about 40 men in this country who could understand what they saw, and by breakfast, they'll have all 40 names on one page, and they'll start crossing them off. Marcus Reed closed his eyes. And I'm on that page, he said. You've been on that page since 2013. Ma'am, you were in a room with no windows, and a man told you 7 words. Claire said, that put you on the page. You've just never been interesting before. And now you're a man on the page who was in the bar, Claire said. The compressor hummed. Oh, Marcus said. Yeah. Oh, God. Marcus listened to me. My daughter's in Escondido, Marcus said. His voice had gone thin. She's got 2 kids. She's got Marcus. Ma'am, my daughter, Marcus Reed, Claire said. And it went through the phone like a hand on the back of his neck. Your daughter is fine and your grandbabies are fine and nothing is going to happen to them. And I need you to breathe the way I made him breathe because you are about to be useless to me and I cannot afford that right now. Devin watched the old man's chest go up and down. Again, Claire said. He did it again. Good, she said. Now listen, these aren't people who hurt families. I want you to understand that because you have watched movies and the movies are wrong, nobody's coming for your grandchildren. That's not the threat. The threat is so much smaller and so much worse than that. What's the threat? Hollis said. Paperwork, Claire said. What? In 4 days, there's going to be a very polite email in Marcus's inbox from a very nice woman at a benefits office asking him to clarify something on a form from 2007, Claire said. And in 9 days, there's going to be a hold on his pension while they clarify it. And in 3 weeks, the bar's liquor license comes up for a compliance review that it has never once had in 30 years. And Ryan gets a page 11 counseling entry from a captain who's never met him. And Devin's re-enlistment package gets lost, not denied, lost. And every single one of those things is legal, and every single one of those things is deniable, and every single one of those things is a phone call from a man who is very good at making phone calls. And in 90 days, every human being in this room hates every other human being in this room, and nobody can explain why. Nobody said anything for a long moment. That's it, Ramirez said into the background of the call horse, 23 years old, still in his truck in his driveway. That's the scary thing, paperwork. Son, Claire said, I've watched that kill more people than a rifle ever did. It was 111. Ma'am, Devin said. Who is he? Devin. No, ma'am, with respect. You're standing in my friend's driveway at 1 a.m. telling us our lives are about to get taken apart by a guy who makes phone calls. And I'm sitting here in the dark with a coin and a camera and 11 guys who are all going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person in about 6 hours because they don't know what they're not supposed to say. His voice cracked. So who is he? Give me a name. Give me something I can be scared of correctly. There was a very long silence. Marcus, Claire said. Ma'am, you said you had lunch with Peter Yates in 2019. Yes, ma'am. Where? Coronado, little place off Orange. What did he order? Turkey, Marcus said. And Claire Morgan made a sound on that phone that nobody in that bar ever forgot, and it was not a word, and it was not a sob, and it was the noise a person makes when a door they've been pushing on for 6 years finally moves half an inch. Ma'am, Devin said. Ma'am, are you Marcus? Claire said. Was he alone? No. The room went dead. Who was with him? Claire said. Ma'am, it was 7 years ago. Marcus, who was with him? There was a man, Marcus said slowly. Older, gray, real quiet, didn't eat. Peter introduced him and I forgot the name inside of a minute because that's what the name was for. Describe him. Ma'am, I don't know. Describe him. 60 maybe, 65, big hands, wore a watch on the inside of his wrist. Marcus stopped and he shook my hand and he told me he'd read something I wrote in 2004 and he quoted it back at me, and I remember thinking nobody's read that. That's a nothing document, and I remember feeling flattered. He put his hand over his eyes. Oh, hell. I remember feeling flattered. What was the watch on? Claire said. What, the watch? What was the band? Leather, cracked, old. Claire didn't say anything. "Ma'am." "Marcus," she said, "in 2013, in a room with no windows when Peter Yates told you the program was closed, did he tell you that on his own?" Marcus Reed's mouth opened, and then stayed open. "No," he said. "Say the rest." "Somebody told him to tell me," Marcus said. "Why?" "Because," he stopped. He started again, and his voice was shaking now, and Devin had to look away. "Because I'd been asking. I'd been asking around about the budget line. I'd found the money and I couldn't find the people, and I wouldn't let it go. And then one day Peter took me into a room and told me 7 words, and I stopped asking. That's what it was for. It was for me to stop asking." "Yeah," Claire said. "He fed me," Marcus said. "Peter fed me a sentence to make me stop." Marcus. "He was my friend for 26 years. Marcus, listen. He was my friend for 26 years, and he sat me down in a room and lied to my face to protect a... He didn't lie to you," Claire said. Everything stopped. "What?" Marcus said. "He didn't lie to you," Claire said. "He told you the truth, every word of it. It turned out we could only count to 3. That was the truest sentence anybody ever said about us, and he said it to you on purpose, and then he changed the subject, and then he never brought it up again, and you spent 11 years thinking he shut you up." She paused. "Marcus, he didn't shut you up. He handed you a live round and prayed you'd figure out which end it went in." The whole bar was silent. "He was telling me," Marcus said. "He was telling you. He was telling me in the only sentence he could survive saying." "Yes." "Ma'am," Marcus's voice broke clean apart. "Ma'am, I never called him back." "I know. I never called him back. He said that to me, and I went home, and I decided he was covering, and I never..." He stopped. He couldn't do it. "He called me twice in 2020. I let it ring." "Marcus?" "He called me twice." "Marcus Reed," Claire said. "Listen to me. Peter Yates knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what it would cost him, and he did it anyway, and he took 11 years of you thinking he was a coward, and he never once said a word to correct it, because correcting it would have gotten you killed. That man carried your bad opinion of him to his grave on purpose." "His grave," Marcus said. Silence. "Ma'am," Marcus said, "you said his grave." Nothing. "Ma'am, an hour ago you told me on this phone he'd want me to know he switched to Turkey in 2016. You said would. Present tense. I heard it. I've been holding on to it for an hour like a..." "He died in March," Claire said. Devin Ash sat down on the floor. "Helbach," Marcus said. "His heart." "How?" "His heart, Marcus." "How?" "It was his heart," Claire said. "I want you to hear that from me, and I want you to believe it because it's the truth and because it's the only clean thing left in this entire story. Peter Yates was 71 years old, and he had a bad heart for 30 years, and he died in a chair in his own house with the TV on, and nobody touched him, and nobody did a thing to him." She stopped. "And he'd been trying to reach me for 4 months when it happened, and I didn't answer either." Nobody moved. "So," Claire said, "there's 2 of us who let it ring. It was 1:26. "Ma'am," Ryan Keller said. "Sergeant." "Ma'am, I know I'm weather." "You are." "Yes, ma'am, but there's something you don't know, and I've been sitting here for 4 minutes trying to figure out if it matters, and I've decided it does." "Go." "The gray sedan," Ryan said. "The one at the end of the block. Nose out half a foot off the curb." "What about it?" "It was here last Thursday," Ryan said. Marcus Reed's head came up so fast his neck cracked. "Say that again," Claire said, and for the first time all night, from the slap to the floor to the phone, there was something in Claire Morgan's voice that had not been there before. "I said it was here last Thursday," Ryan said. "Same spot, same nose out. I noticed because I parked behind it and I had to back out around it, and I said something to Devin about how some idiot can't park." "He did," Devin said. His voice had gone high. "He did. Ma'am, he did. I remember he said..." "Sergeant," Claire said, "was I in the bar last Thursday?" "No, ma'am." "Have you ever seen me before tonight?" "No, ma'am." "Then think very carefully before you answer this next question," Claire said, "because a lot of things are about to depend on it. Was that car there before I ever set foot in this town?" Ryan Keller closed his eyes and went back through it. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "How sure?" Ma'am, it rained Thursday, Ryan said. It rained Thursday night, and I remember the water coming off the roof of it when I backed out because it was coming off in a sheet, and I thought that car's been sitting there long enough to fill up. It hadn't moved all day. Silence on the line. Long silence. Ma'am, Devin said. Nothing. Ma'am, are you still? He wasn't following me, Claire said. Her voice had changed. Marcus Reed heard it change and stood up out of his chair without deciding to, because in 19 years he had learned exactly one thing worth knowing. And it was that when the calmest person in the room stops being calm, you get on your feet. Ma'am, he said. He was already here, Claire said. He was here before me. He was sitting at the end of that block on Thursday in the rain, and I didn't get into this town until Saturday afternoon. Ma'am, what does that mean? It means I didn't lead him here, Claire said, and there was something rising up under her voice, and it was not fear, and it was so much worse than fear. Marcus, do you understand what I'm saying to you? For 6 years, I have organized my entire existence around one single principle, which is that I am the thing that brings it. I don't stay anywhere. I don't learn names. I don't let a bartender ask me about lemons. Because wherever I am, it comes, and if I stop moving, it lands on whoever's standing next to me. That's the whole architecture. That's every choice I've made since 2020. Ma'am? And it was already here, she said. It was here Thursday. It was here before me. So who was it here for? Hollis said. And Claire Morgan said, Marcus. What did you write in the 2004? Marcus Reed didn't answer. Marcus. It's nothing, he said. Marcus, what did you write in 2004 that a man with a watch on the inside of his wrist read and quoted back to you at lunch in 2019 to make you feel flattered? It was a nothing document. Marcus? It was an assessment, Marcus said. His voice had gone flat and strange. It was a personnel assessment. It was 11 pages. Nobody read it. It went in a drawer. An assessment of what? Of a pipeline. The bar was so quiet, Devin could hear his own pulse. Marcus, Claire said very gently, whose pipeline? Marcus Reed put both hands on the bar and leaned on them. Ma'am, he said, ma'am, I want you to understand something. In 2004, I was a chief. I was 41 years old. Somebody handed me a stack of files and asked me to write down which of these people I would trust in a room I couldn't see into. That's the whole job. That's all it was. I read 400 files and I wrote 11 pages and I put a check next to some names and I didn't put a check next to others. And then I went and got a sandwich and I never thought about it again for 15 years. Marcus, I didn't know what it was for. Marcus, I swear to God on my mother, I did not know what it was for. Marcus, Claire said, how many checks did you put? And Marcus Reed said 11. Devin Ash made a noise. Ryan Keller stood up. Hollis Bryant said, oh, sweet Jesus, and put his face in the rag. Ma'am, Marcus said, and he was crying now. 63 years old, standing in the dark in a bar he'd come to 3 nights a week for 6 years because the alternative was a house with nobody in it. Ma'am, was I? Yes, Claire said. Was I the yes? I picked you, Marcus said. You picked me, Claire said. It was 1:34 in the morning. Marcus, she said, and now her voice was doing something Devin Ash had no name for because it had gone kind again. It had gone kind at exactly the wrong moment, the way it had gone kind on the floor over a man with his arm folded up behind him. Marcus, listen, what did you write next to my name? I don't know. Yes, you do. Ma'am, it was 22 years ago. You know, Claire said. You've known since I said the number 4. You've been standing there for 40 minutes with it in your mouth. Say it. Marcus Reed shut his eyes. Would go back for someone, he said. Nobody breathed. Would go back for someone, he said again. That's what I wrote. 4 words. Because I read a file about a 19-year-old girl in Missouri who dragged a boy she hated out of a pond because nobody else would get in the water, and she'd hated him for 4 years, and he'd made her life hell, and she went in anyway, and she never told a soul it was in the file because his mother told somebody. And I read that, and I wrote 4 words, and I put a check. He opened his eyes, and I thought I was doing a good thing. You were, Claire said. Ma'am, I put you in. You were doing a good thing, Claire said. Marcus, listen to me. Look at me. You can't so listen. There were 400 files on that desk, and you picked the 11 people who would go back for somebody. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what that actually means? It means It means somebody wanted a different list, Claire said. The whole room stopped. What? Marcus said. You wrote 11 names on a page in 2004, Claire said. And somewhere above you, there was a man who needed a very specific kind of person for a very specific kind of work. And he needed people who could sit in a village for 8 months and learn every name and then clear a room. And the temptation, the thing every single one of them wanted, the thing they tried for 14 years to build, was somebody who could do that and not care. And you cared, Devin said. All 11 of us cared, Claire said. That's why we were on the list. That's the only reason we were on the list. That's what he wrote next to our names. Ma'am. And it turned out, Claire said that people who go back for someone are unbelievably good at the job and completely impossible to control. Because you can point us at anything you want, and we'll go and we'll do it, and we'll do it better than anybody's ever done it, right up until the day you tell us to leave somebody behind. Marcus Reed said, oh, yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Ma'am, is that what happened? They told us to leave someone, Claire said. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. It was 1:39 in the morning, and 11 Marines and a bartender and a retired chief stood in the dark listening to a phone. And you went back, Ryan said. All of us went back, Claire said. Every single one. That's what they'd built. They'd spent 14 years and 400 candidates building a team out of people who would go back, and then one day in a bad place with a bad clock, they told the team to leave a man behind, and 11 people looked at each other and did the only thing 11 people like that have ever done, which is exactly what they were made to do. And what happened, Devin said. 3 of us came out, Claire said. The words hit that room like a wall coming down. It turned out we could only count to 3, Marcus said. That's what it means, Claire said. Ma'am, that's what Peter was telling you. That's the live round. It's not that the program failed, Marcus. It's that it worked. It worked exactly the way you designed it, and it did exactly what you promised on page 4 of 11 pages. Nobody read, and 8 people died doing the thing you put a check next to, and the man with the watch on the inside of his wrist stood in a room and watched it happen on a screen, and then he closed the program and buried the file and shook your hand in a sandwich shop in 2019 and quoted your own words back at you to see if you'd flinch. Marcus Reed said in a voice with nothing left in it, Did I flinch? You said thank you, Claire said. So you told me 10 minutes ago you said you felt flattered. Ma'am, that's why you're alive, Claire said. And Marcus Reed, 63 years old, put his forehead down on his own bar and did not make a sound. It was 1:44. The man they left, Ryan said. He hadn't meant to speak. It came out of him. Ma'am, the man you went back for. Sergeant, did you get him? Silence. Ma'am, did you get him? Yes, Claire said. So it worked. Yes. So 8 people died and it worked. Yes. Ma'am, was it worth? Don't, Marcus said without lifting his head. Son, don't. I'm asking. I know what you're asking, and I'm telling you don't, Marcus said, because that woman has asked herself that question every single night for 6 years, and she is not going to answer it to a man who slapped her in a bar 4 hours ago. The room went still. He can ask, Claire said. No. Ma'am, he can ask. He's the only one in that room who's earned it. A pause. Sergeant? Ma'am? Was it worth it? Claire said. 8 for 1. Yes, ma'am, that's what I'm asking. I don't know, Claire said. Ma'am, I've never known. Not for 1 second. Not for 6 years. That's the answer. That's the whole answer, and I don't have a better one, and anybody who tells you they do is lying to you or selling you something. Her voice was absolutely level. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know that if you could go back and put the same 11 people in the same room on the same night with the same clock, we'd do it again. Every time. All 11. Not because it was worth it, because it's what we are. That's the trap, Sergeant. That's the actual trap. He didn't build a weapon. He built a promise, and then he made us keep it, and then he was surprised it cost something. It was 1:48. Ma'am, Devin said, who's left? You said 1. Devin, you said 9 are dead and 1 isn't, and the one who isn't is the reason. So that's 10, and there's 11. He was standing now. Ma'am, there's 11 names on that page, and you're one of them. So there's you and there's 9 dead, and there's him. Which means when you said 1, Bauman, Devon, Marcus said. When you said 1, you weren't counting yourself. Nobody breathed. Ma'am, Devon said, ma'am, why didn't you count yourself? And Claire Morgan said very quietly, because I turned mine in. It was 150. What? Marcus said. In 2020. I put it on a desk and I walked out. Ma'am, then who's Marcus? Claire said. Turn the coin over. Marcus Reed's hand was shaking so badly he dropped it. Ryan Keller caught it out of the air with his good hand and looked at it and turned it over and stared at the blank face of a coin with no crest and no name and no motto. There's nothing on it, he said. There's nothing on it. Claire agreed. Ma'am, there's nothing. Look closer, Sergeant. Ryan looked closer, and then his face changed in a way that Devon Ash would think about for the rest of his life. There's a scratch, Ryan said. Yeah, there's a scratch on it. It's not a scratch, he held it up. It's letters. It's real small. Somebody scratched it in by hand. Read it, Claire said. Ryan Keller read it. And then he set the coin down on the bar very carefully, like it had gone hot. And he backed up 2 steps and he said, Ma'am, that's not possible. Read it out loud, Marcus said. Marcus, son, read it out loud. And Staff Sergeant Ryan Keller, 32 years old, 11 years and standing in the dark in a locked bar at 1:51 in the morning with a shoulder he couldn't lift and a handprint on his conscience read 4 scratched words off a blank coin. Would go back for someone, he said. The bar did not make a sound. Marcus, Claire said. Marcus Reed couldn't speak. Marcus, say something. Say anything. That's my handwriting, he said. I know. Ma'am, that's my handwriting. I know it is. How? Marcus said. How is my handwriting on? Because he showed it to you at lunch, Claire said, and you didn't recognize it, and he watched your face while you didn't recognize it, and then he put it back in his pocket. Ryan Keller said, whose coin is this? Ma'am, Marcus said. Ma'am, whose coin is this? It's number 4's, Claire said. You're number 4. No, Claire said. I was number 7. And the bottom fell out of the world. Ma'am, Devon said. Ma'am, then who's 4? Marcus said. Who's 4? Ma'am, who is Marcus? Claire said. Ask me the right question. That is the right question. No, it isn't, she said. You've had it for 2 hours. You've been holding it since Devon put that thing in your hand, and your first word wasn't, what is it? It was, where did you get that? That was the right question. That's always been the right question. Ask it. Marcus Reed stood in the dark with his heart trying to come out of his chest. Where did you get it? He said. He gave it to me, Claire said. When? March, Claire said, the week before he died. Devon Ash said Peter Yates. Yes. Peter Yates was number 4. Peter Yates was number 4, Claire said. He was 51 years old when they built us, and he was too old and too slow and too broken, and they took him anyway because of 4 words a chief wrote in a drawer in 2004, and he sat in a room for 9 years watching kids. He picked go into places he couldn't follow, and he was the one who said, go back. Marcus Reed's legs went. Devon caught him. He gave the order, Claire said. It was his. It wasn't ours. We'd have gone anyway. That's what makes it unbearable, Marcus. We'd have gone anyway. He didn't have to say a word, but he said it first, so it would be his. So that when the accounting came, there'd be a name on it, and the name would be his, and the 9 of us wouldn't have to carry it. And they let him, Ryan said. And they let him, Claire said. They took his coin off him in a room with no windows, and they told him the program was closed, and they gave him one thing to do before they were done with him, which was to sit down across from an old friend in Coronado and find out whether the friend remembered writing 11 pages. And he ordered turkey, Marcus said. He ordered turkey, Claire said, because you'd know it was him, because the man with the watch was sitting right there and Peter Yates couldn't say one single true word out loud, so he ordered a different sandwich after 35 years and prayed you'd notice. Marcus Reed made a sound like a man going through ice. Marcus, Claire said, Marcus, listen to me. There's one more thing, and then I'm going to hang up this phone, and you're never going to hear from me again. Ma'am, he gave me that coin in March, and he told me to find you, Claire said. That's what I'm doing in your town. That's what I've been doing for 4 months. That's why I came into your bar on a Saturday and sat in a corner for 2 hours drinking water and watching a 63-year-old man watch a mirror. Peter Yates spent his last week alive telling me to find Marcus Reed, and I've been sitting on it for 4 months because I couldn't figure out why. And tonight a Marine slapped me in the face and gave me 4 seconds of chaos, and I put a coin under a table to find out. To find out what? Marcus whispered. Whether you'd know what it was, Claire said, and you did. And that means Peter was right. And that means I've got about 9 hours before that gray sedan comes back with somebody in the passenger seat. And it means I need to tell you the last thing he said to me, and then it's yours, Marcus. And God forgive me because I don't want it anymore. What did he say? Marcus said. And Claire Morgan said, he said, tell Marcus the man who read his pages is still reading them. The line went quiet. Ma'am, Marcus said. Ma'am, what does that mean? It means he never closed the file, Claire said. It means there's a man with a watch on the inside of his wrist who has spent 22 years running a list of 11 people, and 9 of them are in the ground, and 1 of them died in a chair in March. And I turned mine in on a desk in 2020 and walked out and thought that was the end of it. And they're building a new one, Claire said. Nobody in that bar made a sound. Ma'am, Devin said. A new what? A new list, Claire said. Marcus, that car wasn't here for me. It was here Thursday. It was here before I ever crossed the county line. It's been sitting at the end of your block watching an old man walk into the same bar 3 nights a week for 6 years because the alternative is a house with nobody in it. Marcus Reed stopped breathing. They don't want you dead, Claire said. They never did. They want 11 more pages. It was 1:59 in the morning, and somebody knocked on the door. Nobody moved. 11 Marines, 1 bartender, 1 retired chief, and a phone on the bar with a dead woman's voice coming out of it, and somebody was knocking on a locked door at 1:59 in the morning. 3 knocks. Even. Patient. Not loud. Ma'am, Devin whispered. I heard it. Ma'am, what do we... Everybody be quiet, Claire said. 3 more knocks. Marcus, she said, where's the coin? Ryan's got it. Sergeant. Ma'am, put it in your mouth. Ryan Keller blinked. Ma'am, put it in your mouth and don't argue with me and don't make a face about it. Claire said, nobody searches a mouth. Nobody's ever searched a mouth in the history of this country. Do it. He did it. Hollis, Claire said, is the office camera separate from the floor cameras? Different box. Where's the box? Under the register. Marcus, get it. Not the drive, the whole box. Put it in the ice well and put ice on it. That'll kill it. That's the point, Claire said. It's a bar. Things fall in ice. Move. The knock came again, 4 this time, and then a voice. Mr. Bryant, it's Alvarez, Sheriff's Department. I left about an hour ago. Every man in that room went limp at once. Oh, thank God, Ramirez said in Devin's ear, and Hollis actually laughed one shaky bark and started toward the door with his keys out. Hollis, Claire said, stop. He stopped. Ma'am, it's the deputy. He was just... Hollis Bryant stopped walking. He stopped. Ask him what he forgot, Claire said. Hollis stood there with his keys in his hand. What? Through the door. Don't open it. Ask him what he forgot. Hollis put his hand flat on the door. Alvarez. Yes, sir. What did you forget? There was a pause on the other side. It was not a long pause. It was maybe a second and a half. But 16 men heard it, and every one of them felt something go up the back of their neck because a deputy, who forgot his hat, says, my hat, before you finish asking. I need a supplemental from the corporal, Alvarez said. Ash, Devin Ash, 5 minutes. Claire said 3 words very quietly. He knows the name. Hollis's hand came off the door like it was a stove. Ma'am, he was in there 11 minutes, Claire said. He talked to you and he talked to Ryan, and he wrote in a notebook, and he said corporal one time. He never asked Devin's name. Devin never gave it. I've been listening to every second of this on this phone since Ramirez's driveway, and I heard the whole thing, and that man never once heard the name Devin Ash. Devin Ash's face went gray. Ma'am, Marcus said, ma'am, he could have gotten it off the theater. Off what? Claire said. Off what, Marcus? There's no report yet. He's been off shift for 40 minutes. Say it. Say where he got it. Nobody said anything. He got it from somebody who was listening, Claire said. And Devin Ash looked down at the phone in his hand. Ma'am, he said, and his voice had gone somewhere small. Ma'am, this is Ramirez's phone. Yes, it is. You're on Ramirez's phone. I know. Ma'am, this call has been open for 52 minutes. I know, Devin. Then they've got all of it. They've got all of it, Claire said. Every word. Since 104. Ryan Keller took the coin out of his mouth and said, "You knew." Sergeant, put that back in your mouth. You knew they were listening and you told us anyway. Yes. Ma'am, put it back in your mouth. He put it back in his mouth. The knock came again, and this time it wasn't a knock. It was the flat of a hand twice hard enough to rattle the frame. Mr. Bryant, open the door, please. Hollis, Claire said, go open it. Hollis's mouth fell open. Ma'am, open the door and let him in and be a 61-year-old bartender who's had a long night and wants to go home, Claire said. Because if you don't open that door in 4 minutes, there's going to be a wellness check and a broken lock and a supervisor and every single thing that after that happens with your name at the top of it. Open the door, Hollis. It's fine. He's not going to hurt anybody. He can't. There's 11 Marines in there. Then what's he here for? He's here to count you, Claire said. Hollis opened the door. Alvarez came in with his hat in his hand and apologized for the hour. And he was polite, and he was easy, and he got Devin's supplemental in 4 minutes flat and wrote maybe 9 words in a notebook, and he asked twice whether anybody else had been in the bar tonight who'd left before he arrived, and Hollis said no, and Devin said no, and Marcus Reed said nothing at all because nobody asked him. And on his way out, Alvarez stopped at the end of the bar. Chief Reed, he said. Marcus turned around. Sorry, as a chief, I don't want to get it wrong. It's Marcus. Marcus, Alvarez smiled. He had a good smile. My uncle was a corpsman, 31 years. That's a long time. He always said the paperwork was worse than the ocean. He wasn't wrong, Marcus said. He wasn't. Alvarez put his hat on. You have a good night, sir. Try to get some sleep. And he left. And Hollis locked the door and turned around, and Marcus Reed was standing perfectly still with his hand over his mouth. Ma'am, he said. I heard it, Claire said. Ma'am, he called me chief. I heard it, Marcus. Nobody's called me chief in 19 years. That's not in a report. That's not in a database anybody hands a deputy at 2 in the morning. That's the message, Claire said. That's not a message. Marcus, he said your rank. He told you a story about a corpsman uncle. He told you the paperwork was worse than the ocean, and he told you to get some sleep. Her voice was flat. That's not a deputy. That's a business card. It was 2:09 in the morning. They're recruiting me, Marcus said. They're recruiting you. After 22 years. They never stopped, Claire said. Marcus, that's the whole thing. That's what I've been trying to get you to see for an hour. They didn't come to your town because they're afraid of you. They came because they need you. Because a man with a watch on the inside of his wrist has spent 22 years trying to build the thing again, and he can't, and the reason he can't is that he's never once been able to figure out how you did it. How I did what? How you read 400 files and picked 11, Claire said. Marcus, they've tried everything. Psychometrics, panels, algorithms. 22 years in a budget you couldn't count, and they cannot find the 11. They pick people who are fast and people who are smart and people who are loyal, and every single time they get a person who follows the order. And they don't want somebody who follows the order. They want the other thing. They want what you found, and they've never been able to find it because they don't know what you were looking for. Ma'am, I was looking for, say it, Marcus. I was looking for whether they'd get in the water, Marcus said. Yes, that's it. That's the whole method. That's not a method it's not written down anywhere, Claire said. Not in your 11 pages. You wrote names and checks. You never wrote why. And a man has spent 22 years reading your pages over and over looking for the trick. And there isn't a trick. There's just an old chief who read a file about a girl in a pond. The bar was silent. Ma'am, Ryan said around the coin, take it out. He took it out. Ma'am, they can't make him do it. No, Claire said. They can't. So he says no. Sergeant, he says no. He just says no. He's 63 years old. He's retired. He's got a pension and a daughter in Escondido. And they can't put a gun to his head and make him read files. Ryan's voice was rising. Right, ma'am. Tell me I'm right. You're right, Claire said. Then what's the problem? The problem, Claire said, is that they're going to offer him the 9. Nobody understood. Marcus Reed understood. He understood instantly the way he'd understood the coin, and his whole body went still. Ma'am, he said. Yeah. Ma'am, don't. You already know. Ma'am, please don't say it out loud. They're going to offer you the 9, Claire said. They're going to sit you down and they're going to open a folder. And in that folder, there are going to be 9 names and 9 dates and 9 places. And 8 of them are in the ground with headstones that say things that aren't true. And their mothers have folded flags on mantles in Ohio and Missouri and Texas. And every single one of those mothers has spent 13 years not knowing. Her voice didn't move. And the man with the watch is going to slide that folder across a table and say, Chief, we'd like to make this right. We'd like to correct the record. We'd like those families to know, and all we need from you is 11 pages. Marcus Reed put both hands on the bar. Oh, he said. Yeah. Oh, that's the offer, Claire said. That's why they didn't kill you in 2013, and it's why they didn't kill you tonight, and it's why a deputy called you chief and told you to get some sleep instead of putting you in a car. They don't want you gone, Marcus. They want you willing. They've been waiting 22 years for the one thing that would make you willing, and they finally found it, and the thing that would make you willing is 9 dead kids you picked. Devin Ash said, That's the most evil thing I ever heard in my life. It's not evil, Claire said. Ma'am, it's not evil, Devin. That's what makes it work. He's not lying. That's the part nobody ever gets. He will actually do it. He'll actually correct the record. Those mothers will actually find out. It's a real offer and it's a good thing and it costs him nothing, and Marcus will actually be doing something true and decent when he takes it. A pause. That's how it's always done. They don't buy you with a lie. They buy you with the one true thing you want most, and then they hand you a pen. It was 2:19, and ma'am, but Marcus said, what do I do? I can't tell you that. Ma'am, Marcus, I have been standing in a driveway in a town I never wanted to see for 6 hours, and I've got 9 hours before that car comes back, and I do not have an answer for you. That's why I sat on Peter's message for 4 months, because I knew what I was walking into. He didn't send me here to warn you. Her voice cracked just once for the first time all night. He sent me here to be here when it happened. That's all. That's the whole errand. Peter Yates spent his last week on this earth making sure Marcus Reed wasn't alone in the room when they finally came for him. Marcus Reed didn't say anything for a long time. Ma'am, he said finally. Yeah. You said you don't want it anymore. I don't. You said God forgive you. I did. Why? Marcus said, and Claire Morgan said, because I came into that bar tonight to give it to you and leave. The room went cold. Yeah, have you thought? Ma'am, Devin said. That was the plan. Sit in a corner. Watch him. Confirm he's the man Peter said he was. Put the coin where he'd find it. Walk out. Drive to Nevada. Let it be his. She stopped. That was the plan at 7 o'clock tonight. That was the plan at 11 o'clock tonight. And now, Ryan said. And then a Marine slapped me in the face, Claire said. Nobody breathed. Ma'am, Sergeant, do you know what happened to me on that floor? Ma'am, you don't. I'll tell you. Her voice had gone strange. You came at me and I took your hand and I put you down and I had you and I had every right on God's earth, 16 witnesses, and I got down on the floor next to a man who had just hit me in the face and I told him to breathe. She stopped. Marcus, what did you say about that? Right after. You said it to Hollis and you didn't know I could hear you, but I was in a truck 2 blocks away with your bar's phone number already dialed. Marcus Reed's mouth had gone dry. I said the 4 I knew couldn't have done it, he said. You said it's not training. I said it's something a person had to decide. Yeah, Claire said. And I sat in that truck and I heard an old man say that about me. And I looked at my own hand and it was shaking at Marcus. And I couldn't figure out why for 6 hours, and I've just figured it out standing in this driveway, so let me tell you what it was. Ma'am, it was because for 6 years I have believed that I turned my coin in, Claire said. I put it on a desk in 2020, and I walked out and I told myself I quit, that I was done, that whatever they built in me, I gave it back. 6 years of corners and water and nobody's names. 6 years of proving I'm not it anymore. Her voice was climbing now, and it was the first time all night, and it went through that bar like a wire. And then a drunk Marine put his hand on my face in front of 16 people, and I had 1 second, Marcus, to be whatever I actually am. And you know what I did? I went back for him. He hit me, and I went back for him. On the floor, I talked him through his breathing so he wouldn't tear his own shoulder. Nobody made a sound. I never quit, Claire said. You can't quit. There's nothing to quit. He didn't put it in me, Marcus. You didn't put it in me. It was already there. That's why my name was on your page. That's why the girl went in the pond. And I have spent 6 years of my life running from a thing that isn't a program and isn't a coin and isn't a number. Her voice broke all the way through. It's just me. It's just who I am. I've been hiding from myself in a corner booth drinking water for 6 years, and tonight, a man I have every reason on earth to hate laid down on a floor, and I could not stop myself from helping him. I couldn't. I tried. My hands shook because I tried. It was 2:29 in the morning, and Ryan Keller said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry." "Sergeant." "No, ma'am, I know it doesn't count. I know I'm weather. I know I don't get absolution. And I know you don't have it to give. Marcus told me that 4 hours ago, and he was right, and I've been sitting here with it." His voice was steady, and that was the thing, it was steady for the first time all night. "But I need to say the true version out loud in front of these men, because if I don't say it now, I'll spend the rest of my life saying the easy version." "Say it." "I didn't hit you because I was drunk," Ryan said. "I wasn't drunk. 4 beers in 3 hours I've been drunk, that wasn't it. And I didn't hit you because you disrespected me, because you were nicer to me than I deserved from the first second. And I didn't hit you because of my dad, and I've been trying that one on for 4 hours because it's warm and it fits." "Then why?" Claire said. "Because you looked at me," Ryan said, "and you saw exactly what was there." The bar was silent. "That's it," he said. "That's all of it. You looked at me, and you didn't see a staff sergeant, and you didn't see a hard man, and you didn't see the guy who carried Torres 3 miles. You saw a 32-year-old man who needs a room to adjust when he walks into it, and you said it out loud in 11 seconds, and it was true, and everybody heard it." He stopped. "And I hit you to make you stop looking." "Sergeant, ma'am, that's the most honest thing anybody said in that room tonight," Claire said, "and I've been listening for 6 hours. Ma'am, it doesn't fix—" "No, it doesn't. Nothing does. That's not what honesty is for." A pause. "But you're going to be all right." Ryan Keller's eyes closed. "Ma'am, you don't have to. I'm not being kind. I'm telling you a fact. You're going to be all right because at 2:30 in the morning with your shoulder wrecked and your career on fire and 11 men listening, you told the truth when the lie was sitting right there and it was warm and it fit. Most men never do that once. You did it 4 hours after the worst thing you've ever done." Her voice was level. "That's not forgiveness, Sergeant. That's a much bigger deal than forgiveness. That's a report on your character, and I'm giving it to you straight, and you can carry it or not." Ryan Keller put his good hand over his face and did not make a sound. "Ma'am," Marcus said, "the 9 hours." "Yeah, you said 9 hours until the car comes back. 6 now. What happens in 6 hours? A man with a watch on the inside of his wrist sits down across from you with a folder." Claire said, "That's what happens. That was always what happens. It was happening whether I came to this town or not, Marcus. That's the part I couldn't tell you until now. The car was here Thursday. I got here Saturday. This was already coming for you. Peter knew it was coming and he couldn't stop it, so he did the only thing he had left. He sent you. He sent me. To do what?" Marcus said. Claire Morgan was quiet for a moment. "To be in the room," she said. "That's all. That's it. That's the whole thing. Marcus, he didn't send me to protect you, and he didn't send me to fight anybody. And he sure as hell didn't send me to stop the offer, because nobody can stop the offer. The offer is real and the offer is good, and those mothers deserve to know." She stopped. "He sent me so that when the folder slides across the table, there'd be one person in the world sitting next to you who already knows what's in it." Marcus Reed said, "Ma'am, why?" "Because that's the only defense there's ever been," Claire said. "Against any of it. Ever. Marcus, you've been trying to figure out for 2 hours what they're afraid of, and it's not you, and it's not me, and it's not a coin, and it's not a camera. It's that. It's a person in the room who knows. That's the whole thing. That's the entire thing." Every single one of these operations from the day they started to the day they end works on exactly one principle, which is that the man they're talking to is by himself. Ma'am, Peter Yates was by himself for 9 years, Claire said, and her voice went to pieces. 9 years in a room watching kids he picked go into places he couldn't follow, and there was nobody, not one person. He said go back because he was alone, Marcus. He carried it for 13 years because he was alone. He ate a different sandwich in a restaurant in Coronado because he was alone and it was the only word he had left, and you didn't hear it. And he went home and he sat in a chair and he was alone for 7 more years and then he died in it. Nobody in that bar breathed. And in his last week, Claire said with everything he had left, he didn't try to fix any of it. He didn't try to expose anybody. He didn't try to get even. He spent his last week on this earth making sure one old man in a bar in a Navy town wouldn't be by himself when they came. Marcus Reed sat down. That's what he did with it, Claire said. That's what number 4 did with the last week of his life. It was 2:41. Ma'am, Marcus said. Yeah. Where are you? Marcus, where are you right now? I'm in a driveway. Whose driveway? Marcus. Ma'am, whose driveway? Silence, and then Devin Ash said very slowly, Ramirez, buddy, look out your window. There was a long pause on the line, and then Ramirez's voice, 23 years old, shaking, said, she's gone. The whole bar stood up at once. Ma'am, Devin said. Ma'am, where are you? I'm on the block, Claire said. What? I've been on your block for 11 minutes, Claire said. I gave Ramirez his phone back at 2:30, and I drove 4 miles, and I've been sitting at the end of your street since 2:38. Ma'am, you can't be here. Marcus, Claire said, unlock your door. Marcus Reed stood up. Ma'am, if they see you. They already saw me, Claire said. They saw me at 11:40 when I walked out and got in a truck. Marcus, that's the thing I've been building to for 6 hours, and you still haven't caught it, so I'm going to hand it to you. They're not looking for me. They stopped looking for me in 2020 when I put a coin on a desk. I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm a woman who quit. Then why are you here? Because I'm done being a woman who quit, Claire said, and the door opened. She came in the way she'd come in at 9 o'clock, 3 steps easy, and she stopped and 16 men looked at her, really looked for the first time at the handprint gone purple on her cheek and the blood dried at the corner of her mouth, and the eyes that had counted every one of them in 3 seconds and had never once all night been afraid. Hollis, she said. Ma'am. Water. Yes, ma'am. With lemon. Hollis Bryant, 61 years old, started to cry and put a lemon in a glass of water and set it on the bar and could not say a single word. Claire drank it. Okay, she said. Marcus, in about 5 hours, a man's going to walk through that door. He's going to be polite. He's going to know your daughter's name and your grandbaby's names, and he's not going to say them, but you'll know he knows, and that's the point of it. And he's going to put a folder on that bar and open it, and there's going to be 9 names in it. Ma'am, and you're going to want to say yes, Claire said. Marcus, listen to me, that's not weakness. You're going to want to say yes because you should want to say yes. Those families deserve the truth, and you're the only man alive who can trade for it, and every decent instinct you have is going to scream at you to sign. So what do I do? Marcus said. Claire Morgan set the glass down. You say yes, she said. The bar stopped. Ma'am, Devin started. You say yes, Claire said, and you write him 11 pages and every single name on it is going to be perfect, and every single one is going to be exactly the kind of person he's been looking for 22 years. Ma'am, that's. And every one of them is going to be somebody who'd go back, Claire said. Marcus Reed's head came up. Ma'am, he said, yeah. Ma'am, that's what he wants. No, it isn't, Claire said. Marcus, that's what he asks for. That's not what he wants. He's been asking for it for 22 years, and he's never once understood what he was asking for. And every time he got close, he shut it down because the second he got it, he couldn't hold it. He can't hold it. He's never been able to hold it. 9 people died proving that, and the 10th said, go back, and the 11th standing in your bar. So you're telling me to, I'm telling you to give him exactly what he asked for, Claire said. And then I'm telling you to sit in this bar 3 nights a week for the rest of your life because he can't build them, Marcus. He can only find them. And every single one of them, everyone is going to have a bad night eventually and end up in a room with a folder. And when they do, there's going to be an old man who knows what's in it. Nobody moved. That's it, Ryan said. That's the plan. He just sits here. Sergeant, Claire said, you tell me. 4 hours ago, you were the loudest man in this county, and you had never once in your life told the truth about yourself. And then an old man you'd never really looked at said 7 words to you in the dark, and you're sitting there with your hand over your face saying things that are going to save your life. She turned. What do you think a person in the room is worth? Ryan Keller didn't answer. He didn't have to. It was 2:56 in the morning. Ma'am, Marcus said, what about you? What about me? Where are you going to be? Claire Morgan looked at the door for a long moment. Here, she said. Ma'am, I'm going to be sitting right there, she said, in that corner booth with my back to the wall at 8 o'clock in the morning, drinking water with a lemon in it. And when he walks in and puts that folder on the bar and opens it, the first thing he's going to see is number 7, sitting in the corner watching him do it. Nobody breathed. And what's he do? Devin said. He'll close the folder, Claire said, and he'll be polite and he'll leave. That's all. Devin, that's everything, Claire said. That's the only thing that's ever worked. There's no shootout. There's no expose. Nobody goes to prison. He's going to walk in here to find a man alone, and he's going to find 16 people who already know, and there is not one single thing in his entire 22-year playbook for that, because his playbook only has 1 page, and the page says, get him by himself. She picked up the coin off the bar, turned it over, looked at 4 words scratched in an old man's handwriting. That's it. That's the secret. That's what 9 people died finding out, and what Peter Yates spent his last week trying to say. She put the coin in Marcus Reed's hand and closed his fingers over it. You don't beat them, she said. You just don't let anybody be alone in the room. Marcus Reed held it and wept, and nobody in that bar looked away, because there are things you're supposed to watch happen to a person. At 8 o'clock that morning, gray sedan pulled up to the Iron Lantern, and a man with a watch on the inside of his wrist walked in with a folder under his arm. Marcus Reed was behind the bar with Hollis. Devin Ash and Ramirez were at the pool table, and neither of them was playing. Ryan Keller was on a stool with his arm in a sling and a page 11 counseling entry in his pocket that he'd requested himself in writing at 4 in the morning. And Claire Morgan was in the corner booth with her back to the wall drinking water with a lemon in it. The man stopped 3 steps inside. He looked at the room. He looked at the booth. And whatever he'd rehearsed in the car came apart in his hands, and every person in there watched it happen. Chief Reed, he said, it's Marcus. Marcus. The man's eyes went to the corner, came back. I think I've got the wrong morning. I think you do, Marcus said. And the man with the folder turned around and walked out and got in his car and drove away, and nobody ever saw him in that town again. 9 families got letters that spring. The letters were true. Nobody ever found out who sent them. Claire Morgan stayed. She got a job at a clinic. She learned every name in that town because that was the other half of what she was, the half nobody had ever asked her to keep. She sat in the corner booth 3 nights a week and drank water with lemon in it, and after a while she stopped sitting with her back to the wall, and after a longer while she stopped noticing the door. And a few years on, when somebody at the bar asked Hollis about the woman in the corner, he said what he always said. That's Claire, she's a nurse. She looks like a nurse. Yeah, Hollis said. That's what everybody says. Because the truth was never that Claire Morgan was dangerous. 9 people had died proving what she was, and a man had spent 22 years hunting for it, and a Marine had put his hand on her face to find out, and every one of them had been looking at the wrong thing. She was never the woman who could drop a man in a second and a half. She was the woman who got down on the floor next to him afterward and told him to breathe. That was the thing they built and could not control. That was the thing Marcus Reed found in a drawer in 2004 and Peter Yates died protecting, and no algorithm on earth has ever been able to reproduce. They slapped the wrong woman in that bar, not because she was strong enough to end him, because she was strong enough not to.